Hello and welcome to episode 8 of What's the Point? The intersection of faith and life. I'm your host, John Muth, and joining me is my apparently hungry co-host,
Trey Fall.
You know, I have a question for you, Trey. Do you think that you could chew louder? Those M&Ms?
No.
It's gross. So we're in a different location. We're at our news desk. This is what news anchors do. Rearrange their papers.
Channel 6 News.
We're actually at the Pointe building. We're not Zooming today.
No Zoom.
No Zoom. We are going to be interviewing two really great guys, Brian Farrell and Bob Mucci. And did you catch that? That's impressive. For you listening, Trey has just caught 2 M&Ms in a row in his mouth. Can he go for 3? He did it. Do you practice this all the time?
I got a big mouth.
Dude, I would gain so much weight.
I'm not supposed to be eating sugar, but here I am.
I know, you put these in front of me, and I've just been eating these jelly beans. Anyway, we're going to talk to them. Yeah, put those away. We're going to talk to Bob and Brian about grief and loss. And they have some pretty incredible stories. And I know that you're going to be encouraged by listening to them today. It's actually going to be a 2-part episode. So after today, come back next week, and we're going to show you part 2 of our interview with Brian and Bob. So without any further ado, let's head over and talk to them. Here we go. And we are back. We're here with Brian Farrell and Bob Mucci. Hey guys.
Hey. Hi, John.
Welcome
to
What's the Point? You are avid. You are our only viewers. So no one else is watching this week. No, we have a few.
We killed them last week.
There's Benny and Jerry.
Benny and Jerry.
Lois. They all are viewers.
You're still a dork.
But we got you M&Ms. We took out the red ones. This was Bob's special request, so you're welcome. Those are for you.
So it's a paid advertisement, sort of.
That's right.
It's our second paid advertisement.
Melts in your mouth, not in your hand. So why don't you guys start off? Tell us a little bit about yourselves, career, family. What do you do for fun? Brian, you go ahead and go first.
All right. Career. I've been a general foreman for a mechanical contractor in the construction field for most of my time in the business, and overseeing jobs 15 sometimes at a time.
Whoa. From
wastewater treatment plants to hospitals and stuff like that. Also, I've been an instructor at Local 12, teaching apprentices and journeymen, and masters for gas piping or other applied sciences, gas code, plumbing code. I've been on a few boards, actually still active on a couple boards, Political Action Committee and Public Relations. I was a board of trustees for a number of years, and that wasn't the fun part. That was.
So what do you do for fun?
For fun, well, we love to have people. We love to entertain at the house. I always loved sports. When I was a young guy, I was an athlete.
So what do you do now? You can't do either of those.
I can do. Surprisingly, I was even playing street hockey up until this stupid pandemic.
Brian, weren't you a boxer?
Yeah, you'd never know by the face.
I know, you look too good to think you've been in some fights.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a long time ago. But it was good.
You married?
I actually, yes. Happily married over the last 2 years.
Awesome.
Second time around.
Yeah.
But it's very good.
And we like Denise a lot more than we like you.
I don't blame you. I do too.
Bob, what about you?
I am in the insurance business. I sell home and auto and business insurance. For fun, I play golf, which I'm glad we can do during the coronavirus now. And I am married, again, second marriage. First marriage, I had 4 children, and I have 2 stepchildren with this marriage, so yeah.
How much golf have you played during the coronavirus?
I haven't played all that much, to be honest with you. I would have liked to have played more, but there's so many different rules, and I don't play in any tournaments, so all the tournaments have been cut out. But yeah, it's a great way to go out and have some exercise. We walk typically. So
You ever hit a hole in one?
no, I wish I had, but no. Came close a few times, but never got a hole in one. Yeah,
I'm horrible at golf, like the worst.
it's all practice.
I miss the ball most of the time. Well, hey, we're both really appreciative that you guys said yes to our ask to be on the podcast. And as you know, we try and talk about the intersection of faith and life. When stuff happens in life, or when you're in a career, how do you handle your faith in those situations? And we know you guys, and we know a little bit about your story. And we were just talking before we started that a lot of times people don't like to talk about grief. And it's kind of a topic or a subject that we avoid a lot of the times. And we know you guys have both had intense loss and intense grief. And so we wanted to invite you here to just tell your story and tell us a little bit about the grief and loss you've been through, and how Jesus and God and Scripture and the church had an impact on healing from that. So, Brian, we started with you on telling about yourself. So, Bob, let's start with you and just kind of tell us some of your story.
So back when I was on my first marriage, we had a second child, Brandon, who was born with a heart defect. He had no left part of his heart. The left ventricle was missing, was kind of small, and it didn't pump effectively to his body. So they developed surgeries in Children's Hospital, believe it or not. It's funny when it's not funny, but it's weird that when you have a child that's not born healthy, it's almost like you're in denial right from the get-go. I didn't understand the severity of the problem. I can tell you a weird story. Was like 2 days or 3 days into it, they were talking about having to do open heart surgery on him, and I was like, are you going to circumcise him while you have Wonder? And the guy's like, I think you have other problems to worry about right now. So it's just the way our body and mind copes. It just takes time to adjust to shocking events like that. Sure. And he went through 5 open heart surgeries and eventually died when he was 2.5. Mm-hmm. And it was a difficult time from the time he died in October, and in January he had been through 4 open heart surgeries, and they knew he had a 5th coming because his heart was getting bigger and they had to go back in and change things and change valves and whatever. So they asked us when we would like to have this surgery, and I was thinking, well, I don't really want to do it in the summertime because people are on vacation, and I don't want to do it like in the middle of the wintertime this winter because people are sick. And so let's pick September. That way everyone's back from vacation and you have full staff, and colds aren't done. And it's really hard because I had to turn him over to the doctors for this surgery when he was the healthiest he had been in 2.5 years, which gave him the best chance of surviving. But out of the 15 times they had done it, there were only 2 children that survived. So I knew the odds were not good going in. And so he died October 9th, 1986. And it was painful. It was very painful. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Before we get into the other questions, Brian, do you mind hopping in and telling some of your story, and then we'll kind of ping pong back and forth?
Yeah, sure. So after my first marriage, I had my son, and so he was growing up. We were living here in Mansfield, and gratefully I had wanted him to have a faith, something that I am grateful I was blessed enough to be given from my mother and father as well, by seeing it in their lives later. But so halfway through his time, I got him involved here, and it wasn't an initial, when you're 7 or 8, coming to church really for the first time I had taken him before, but it was kind of a little difficult. But he learned to really love it, and he got very well involved, which I couldn't be more grateful for. But he was growing up, really a good kid, and did well in school. But about when he was in his late 13th year, almost 14, I got a call driving home from work that he hadn't got home yet, and there was a big thing downtown and a bus, and someone, he's not home yet, the bicycle's not here. And so the initial hour driving home was horrendous prayer, deals, please God. And then about maybe an hour or so after getting home, finding out it was Shane, was, I just can't put to words how your heart is torn from you. It was just, I don't have the proper words to explain the pain or the shock. The shock is actually more of a word for it. And I am so grateful because I was inundated with, once the news got out, which it got out right away, TV and all that. But brothers and sisters from the church, town members, friends, organizations you would not know existed, coming like Mansfield Moms.
To support you.
Just for support. And just amazing.
It's good.
Just amazing. And if it wasn't truly for everyone coming in, I'll tell you, they came, just came. And I really don't see how the shock could have been dealt with any better than by what, the people of God, the people who God sent.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a big difference when something like that happens and you're in Christ.
Yeah.
Bob, when Brandon died, were you following Jesus at the time?
I was Catholic, but Jesus really wasn't a part of my everyday life. It was a Sunday Jesus for me.
Yeah.
Go visit him, and I didn't really pray. I didn't read the Bible. I didn't go to Bible studies. I went to visit him at church.
Hey, Jesus, can I come in? Want some M&Ms?
Not the red ones, Jesus. They're bad.
Exactly.
So what was that? Did you have a similar experience to Brian with, the support?
Well, I think that a loss of a child is one of the most, I can only speak for myself, but for me, I can't imagine a loss. I've been through a loss of my dad and my mom, but the loss of a child is really a dramatic loss that I had to bear, and that others like Brian have to bear. Brian explained it well, because the searing pain of losing a child is overwhelming to such a degree that I really couldn't function. I remember bits and pieces after they told me he died, and I got to hold him, but people came to the hospital, they drove me home. I had to go to the funeral home, but people were with me, thank God, because I really don't remember it very well. Yeah. I was in such shock. I don't think I got sleep for the first few nights. I spent a lot of time in his room. You could smell him. I could be with him. It was hard. It's still hard.
Yeah. I call it a daze. You're in a daze.
Absolutely.
You're in a daze. And I forgot about doing, and that's exactly what you do. I went in and out of Shane's room and smelt his clothes and things like that. It's unusual. Not things you would think.
I mean, in life, there's certain things that you expect. I expected my parents to go before me. I'm not, it was a sadness. My aunts, my uncles died, my parents died. And I can't imagine, there was a sadness associated with when I got divorced. That's also a grieving process. And, I've lost pets before, who have died, but nothing to the point. I think God actually prepared me by going through that kind of pain for what came later in my life. Because not only did I suffered the pain of not having my child, but through the divorce, I was alienated from my 3 daughters, so I haven't been able to talk with them for over 20 years. So that's a difficult loss as well.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
I think probably just one more question for this. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I just wanted to say I was truly blessed during, sometimes the will of God is a bitter pill. Okay? And we question and we can do all this, but it's still what it is. And you can look at it and simply say, why did this happen? Well, because he was knocked under a school bus, that's why. Or something, you can be that sharp.
Yeah.
But what God gave me in the first night, which I find absolutely amazing, was I was able to turn. Not that I didn't suffer, because I did, but I turned an understanding that I had him for almost 14 years. Not now that I'm not going to have him for the rest of my life, because I still do. But I had that beautiful soul for almost 14 years to bring up. And just from getting that, as members of our congregation was at my backyard and we were all sitting around and everyone, and I just got that little nugget inside, and I knew, and what a difference that made.
Yeah.
Just turning the perception around.
Yeah.
That was interesting you say that, because I had forgotten. I oftentimes said, I was supposed to have my son for 3 days, and God blessed me to have him for 2 years and 9 months. So I agree with you. I think that perception took time for me. Originally, after the shock wore off, I was looking for answers. I wanted to know why. Why would God take a young child from me? What did I do? I blame myself. I was looking at my own life. What did I do to cause this? I must have been bad somehow. And this is, God.
It's your enemy.
Yeah, God's getting back at me for something, I actually started reading, I read a book by Rabbi Kirsner. When bad things happen to good people. And it sort of started the process of changing my perspective. Because I was angry with God. It's not like I went around and I just didn't get it. I wasn't going back to church. God was out of my life at that point, and I was looking for answers. And I read that book, and for those people that don't know it, he talks about 3 principles. God is good. I am good, and God is all powerful and all knowing. And he says, okay, if God is good and God is all powerful and God is all knowing, then if those 3 things are true, then I have to be bad, and I don't want to live with that. So if I take out the theory that I'm bad, then how did this happen? Well, maybe God has set up laws of fundamental things like gravity and things like that. He's so powerful that he set these laws in motion on the earth and giving people free will, and then he can't intervene on that. He can't take your will back from you. He can't save every child that falls out of a second-story window just because they're good people. Then there wouldn't be gravity.
Life on life's terms.
Exactly, life on life's terms. And that helped me understand a little bit better. It's not, he suffered, I feel like God suffered with me.
Yeah. Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
So as you reflect back on what happened, is there a point that you remember that the point that you moved on, or is it just something that you feel like you kind of have to manage forever, or how does that work?
That's a great question. It really is. So let me speak to the pain first, because oftentimes I get a question where people have a dramatic loss, whether they lost a spouse or a child or a father or a pet or someone that's dramatic for them. And it's dramatic for, there's different things that are different for different people. And there's no right answer here. You could grieve 2 years over a pet that you really loved. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, when I describe it, I say, look, it's sort of like getting a splinter under your fingernail. When it first happens, it kills. It hurts. It throbs. It's there. You feel it every minute. It's in there. Then, after a while, even if you don't take it out, after a while, you start to get used to that pain, and it doesn't hurt as much. Except when you bang it on something, and then it kills again for a few minutes and goes away. And that's what the loss for me has felt like. It's not something I ever get over. It's something that I've learned to live with. And God has given me the strength to see past the initial pain and see how I can benefit others. And he did that, in answer to your question, where I think it was steps, John. I don't think there was one moment that took me from negative to positive. I think it happened in baby steps for me. And the first baby step that I can remember is that my ex-wife asked me to go to a grieving session with her, and I was in with a room filled with 12 people, and we were going around the room at the beginning of the meeting, and people were saying their names and and telling people their story and where they were in their life today. And as we started going around the room, this person hasn't been out of the house in a year, this person quit work, and this person has been in therapy, and this person's been in and out of the hospital, and I'm like, and I'm sitting there going, is this what's in store for me coming in the future? This is what my life is going to be like. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I am not going to let something that overtake me, and God's going to help me through this. So I immediately started doing things that were beneficial. I started a nonprofit called the Kids Classic. We developed a golf tournament for Children's Hospital in Boston that turned out to be the largest golf tournament that was run for them. Wow. We raised money for overnight suites for parents who had to stay in the intensive care unit, the cardiac intensive care unit for their kids, because we were sleeping in big waiting areas. There'd be 20 or 25 of us, mums and dads, all on cots together. And it doesn't sound like much, but who snores, who gets up in the middle of the night 6 times, who wants to watch the TV till 2 o'clock in the morning, who wants to go to bed at 8? It's not a pleasant experience. And then you take that and the pressure of having a child in the intensive care unit and add that on top of it. It's not a pleasant experience.
Yeah, sure.
And some people are there for 8 or 9 months without going home to see their kids. So it was important to me that we start to give them some room to be a family again at the hospital. And so, nice. God gave me that calling. That wasn't me. That was something God put in me,
And that helped you heal in the process,
It did. It helped me refocus from my loss to the loss of others. And helping them helped me.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
What about you, Brian?
Well, very much in a similar way as Bob. It was steps. It wasn't one specific moment. Other than one time, a few months after the funeral, and which was unbelievable, the town was, I've never seen anything like it, with the love and caring was just amazing.
Yeah.
But I was at Honeydew Donuts of all places and getting a coffee, and I saw a few people just, pointing, and I overheard, that's the father. And I realized that I don't want that as my identity. That this town where he was raised and loved is his town. And it will always be like that.
Yeah.
And it's not for me. So it was time for me to shuffle out of Buffalo to move, to get going. And I'm very grateful that I was able to, and God gave me that understanding.
So you literally moved.
I literally
You
moved.
moved on.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, not too far.
Yeah.
But I knew at that time it was not who I wanted to be. I didn't want to be known as that's the father of the kid that, you know,
Yeah.
and all that. So, because that's not a good thing for you.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not who I am. It's a part of me. You know, and because of that, it's certainly strengthened my faith and my life in a lot of ways, which I never would have known otherwise. So.
And those are both really, like from both your perspectives, really good practical insights. You learned to serve others and focus on other people's pain, and in the process, it helped you. And then at the same time, sometimes God calls you to move.
Yeah.
And you're not just moving on emotionally, spiritually, but you physically.
Physically move.
And He did that all throughout Scripture. Sometimes He would physically move people for His healing, for His purposes. So I just thank you both for your vulnerability and honesty and sharing the story. It's really good to hear from you guys and kind of get the whole picture of what's going on in your lives.
And as I said, this is a two-part episode. Next week, we're going to be talking more about faith and what Jesus, how He's been there for you, and how, you know, He's helped you through grief. And as you said earlier, you know, there's all kinds of grief. So if you're watching and you're thinking, you know, well, I've never lost a child, I don't know what that's like. You know, we want you to be encouraged because, and I know Bob said it earlier, there's all kinds of grief. Your life can be turned upside down in so many ways, and we want everyone to know that Jesus can be there for you in whatever that looks like. We're going to talk more about that in part 2. And in the meantime, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast, or whichever podcast application that you use. If you have any questions, you can email us info@crosspointema.org, and join us next week for part 2 as we yet again attempt to answer the question, what's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point?
What's the point?